Bonjour, everybody. Hi. Good morning. Good Sunday morning. I hope you're all doing well and that the Sunday that you're spending is going to be a peaceful and quiet one. It sure is here. We had thunderstorms here in Toma, Wisconsin last night, and it was a great night sleep. You know how you can hear the rumbling of the thunder and the rain on the roof, and it's cool. Right now it's only 60 degrees, and so it was. Good morning, Elise. Um, so it was a great night's sleep. It was one of those. I love that when you can hear the rain on the roof and the thunder in the distance, and yeah, it was good. Good. I hope you're doing well. I'm ready to go for a Sunday. There is. I had such a fun time drawing this card this morning. Good morning, Mary. Mary, do you have your beverage? Elise, do you have yours? This morning's coffee, not tea, coffee. We kind of have a little bit of a ritual here on Sunday. Good morning, Allie. I was just asking Allie if you guys have your beverage. I've got coffee this morning. We have a little bit of a ritual here on Sunday mornings. Mom likes getting the Sunday paper. And so Paul, on his way home from work, because he works third shift, he stops by to get donuts, the Sunday paper, and Mom and I always have a really good cup of coffee together as she's starting to read the paper, and we donuts are not exactly health food, right? But when she's 98 and I can still do something fun with her like that. We do it. Sometimes we split a donut, but she doesn't like the kind I like, and I can tolerate the ones that she likes. so anyway, that's our Sunday morning ritual here. Mary's saying 1 cup down already. Yay. Elise, good morning, Elise. And Steve is saying he's got hot cocoa. Good for you, Steve. That's good stuff. I found it's an organic cocoa. It doesn't have any added sugar or anything in it, right? And sometimes what I do is I add that to my coffee when I have a cup of coffee in the morning. So usually in the wintertime. Of course, this morning it's 60 degrees here. We're supposed to have a high of 65. It's cold. Cool. It's very cool. It's almost a 30 degree difference from last weekend when it was so hot, right? See, I've got a sweatshirt on. I've got a hoodie on. Yeah, it's a little chilly. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this morning's card draw. I know I did. When it popped out of the deck, when I saw it, because we haven't had this one yet. And it's something that actually I'm going to be talking about on the upcoming, where I decided I was going to do a monthly mini class in the Academy closed group for Star Nations. And we're going to be doing that June 14th at 7 Central Time, so 8 Eastern Time. And we're going to be talking about the shamanic traveling, the soul traveling, spirit traveling. And some people call it Dreamtime. And this is the card that jumped out this morning. It's unlimited vision. And look at that artwork on there. It's gorgeous. I hope it's in focus. Dreamtime. Yeah. It's Jamie Sams, what she writes for the cards in her book, the Sacred Path cards, is what we're using for those who'll be tuning in who don't know what we're doing. What are those people doing, right? Every morning I do a card draw, and this is for the people who may just be joining us and they're not sure, what this live stream is about. And I've been doing this for a really long time, and I then started adding like a quote from the card draw to our Instagram account for Star Nations. And then I had this idea at the beginning of May, that maybe the community here at Star Nations would like to know the background, the backstory kind of what that card draw is and what that card is about. And my intention for the card draw is, I call to my entire spiritual team, everybody, the whole group. And it's like we have the meeting before the meeting, right? And I ask them to please show me what's most important energy for us to know for today, and that I can share. And so that I've been doing this for years, but it wasn't until just October, I think it was September, October, something like that of last year, that I started adding it to the Instagram account. And why I even started doing this years ago is, one, it was a way to connect on a daily basis consciously with my spiritual team that were working together, being together, experiencing my physical life together in a conscious way. And come on, we're always curious. What's going on? Good morning, Jocelyn. And so we want to, if we have a way of understanding the world around us better, why not, right? And so with the card draw, what happens is that I'm very aware of how the energy is flowing for that day. And I always say, when it flows to you, through you, and around you, right? That you can be an active participant in it, or you're bearing witness to it. And so many times I've used the information about the energy for the day to help me with projects or situations in my personal life or in my business life, which is both, really. And so with this card, Dreamtime, that came up this morning, I had already kind of set the intention yesterday with the card draw that we had yesterday, that I was going to share a little bit more about when we do that shamanic journey, that holy person journey, what's that like, and answering questions about it. Some people have been on this path for a really long time, and they just want to connect with other people who are on the same path, or they're just starting out and they may have questions that they want to ask, and they sometimes don't know who to ask. So it provides a place for us to do that. So I'm glad this card came up. In some ways, I'm not really totally surprised that it came out, because that is where my focus is in the last 2 days. So let's see what Jamie Sams has to say, because I found myself agreeing with her about most of it, and there was a couple things that I just kind of went, You can tell it was written in 1990 because some of the way she phrases certain things, it's like, I'm not sure that we would use that kind of jargon today, to describe something. So it's about unlimited vision. And she writes that that back in 1990, there was something that she, how do I want to say this? She recognized it, she saw it. She was a little confused by it at first, and she thought maybe she could help by writing something more about it. And what she said is that she noticed that there was a confusion between Dreamtime and journeying out of body. And that there was, people were kind of lumping it all together. And it's not quite true. It's not quite true. And that's the part I did agree with her, that there is a difference between certain dreams that you have, that we all have, right? And so what she calls it is a knowing system. I kind of like that. And she was hoping that her knowing system would help those people who are utilizing their gift to be able to do the spirit journeys. And many people who do the spirit journeys are usually working on behalf of another person, or perhaps even a group of people, like a village or a clan or a tribe or a nation, right? Okay. So she talks about the Choctaw tradition. And in the Choctaw tradition, they have 4 categories of dreams. And each one of them helped to understand the information coming through the dreams. And she says that the first type is a dream. The dream is of a property dream, she calls it. And it tells about possible future acquisitions. Okay, so it's talking about something physically coming into your life that is what we would term abundance, financial abundance, possessions. And sometimes she says this is also called a wealth dream, and is brought to us by allies to show the sleeping dreamer the actual physical situations that will bring abundance to their home. In this type of dream, the abundance a person will receive in their life can be foretold. And so had never really heard of a specific category like that, but the traditions that I grew up with, there were only really 2 kinds of dreams. There were dreams where they were just dreams that help you work out what's in your daily life. And then there's the others. And the others are when you're traveling, when you're doing spirit travel. The second one from the Choctaw is, they call it no account dream, a no account dream. And I had to smile at that one. They believe that there are certain dreams that really don't mean anything. They're the ones that are so disjointed and you can't really figure them out. First you were here, then you were there, or, it was like nebulous. You can't really even pull it together to try to understand any kind of point. They call those no account dreams. And I had to smile at that, no account, because in their tradition, those dreams hold no value. And, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not something that I agree with. I think that anything and everything that happens in our dreams help us in some way. If it's one of those dreams that we have that help us to work out a situation that we're experiencing in our life, many times, most of the time, it's about some sort of emotion, right? And so I think those have value. We might not be able to completely understand them, but they have value. They're helping us in maybe to express a certain emotion that we didn't take the opportunity to express during our awake time. So, I think that there's value to them, is what I'm trying to say. It might not be, one of those precognitive kind of dreams, vision kind of thing, but they still have some sort of value, I think. And we all have those, right? We all have those where you wake up and you think, what was that about? I don't even get that one. But when you journal your dreams, journaling, when you write them down, no matter what they are, and you write them down and you go back to them at some point and you're reading through them, you're going, oh, I know what that one was about now. That was about, something at work, or my emotions with another person that I was so angry I didn't know what to say, And so in the dream time, you're working it out. So I think that they have some sort of value. They also call them giveaway dreams or nothing dreams. The third dream type is a wish dream. And it says that the dreamer's hopes for his or her future, which do not always manifest physically because they're not backed by trust. And at this one, I couldn't even really think of an example of that. And she goes on to say, if this type of dream is dreamt by another person and has you in it and you are told about it, the dream can have some medicine value. But this wish dream is something that she uses the term pipe dream, and okay, just that term pipe dream actually has more connection to an opiate kind of dream. It's the pipe dream about how opium, how it affects some people. It's like a state of grandeur from what it's described, and so the pipe dream, I think that's what she's trying to get at, is that the wish or the dream is so grand, so big, like winning the lottery, maybe, I guess. And that there's not much back in it though, because the trust that it will actually manifest is lacking, is what she's saying. I thought that was kind of funny, that part. The fourth type of dream is the medicine dream. And that brings a vision of the person's future in correct and impeccable form, she writes. It's a rare gift, and in this type of most sought after by those seeking the void. Seeking, what did she call that? It was the crack in the universe, when we travel through the crack of the universe. Yeah. And so, and it's, I think that more people probably have these kind of dreams or visions, at least once in their life, maybe more. And they maybe just don't live in a culture that really nurtures that or finds value in that, right? Yeah. And so I think that there's probably more people who do this. It's not quite as rare as she writes from a 1990s point of view. We live in a much different energy field. They say, that you hear the term, the veil is much thinner. Well, it's true. I know people who have been the first wavers, they're called, the first wave light workers, share that in the old days, we're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, that it was you had to really work at being able to connect into the next dimension. Had to really work at it. You had to live a certain kind of lifestyle, very clean, very, very clean lifestyle. Yeah, you had to practice and practice and practice and practice and work with your guides and know who they were. And it was a lot of work. It was real work, right? And these days, you may not even need to know that guide's name, and they're still working with you. They're still there. They're in our time frame now. The veil is so thin that there's times when we do ceremony, especially in those like full moon, new moon, the solstices, the equinoxes, that spirit, more people are experiencing that connection with spirit so much more than they did in the past. Yeah. And I think that more people have those precognitive dreams, that they dream about the future, right? And sometimes it's not even, I don't want to say that it's, it's going to change the world, but sometimes, it's enough for you to know, both in your mind and in your heart, that what you just dreamt, you're seeing now in the physical world. Has anybody had that in the chat at all? Those kinds of dreams where you were shown something in your, whether it's going to affect your life or the life of somebody that you know, and and it happens. I mean, you're witnessing it occurring in the physical world. It could be like, within days or even within months. Um, so, I'm just curious of the people in the chat, if you've had that experience. It's the medicine dream in the Choctaw tradition that the dreamer would not share about the dream. Not until a shaman or a holy person would actually have either a dream about them knowing the information, that the holy person or the shaman would go to the dreamer to talk to them about it, and then the dreamer would then tell the medicine man or woman about the dream. And so they would hold it close to them, waiting for it to occur, to see if it would unfold. And I like this phrase that they use to describe that sharing. And we do that more often, I think, these days, is that when we talk about our dreams, and especially those visions or those precognitive kind of dreams, she calls it to open the vision. Open the vision. In other words, you're sharing what you saw, sharing what you experienced in that vision, the telling of it, the sharing of it. And I think we do that more often. But I'm a little I want to say biased, but it's slanted in a certain way, because the way I grew up in my parents' home, it was a more traditional Native American home. I grew up having breakfast, sitting around the breakfast table, talking about our dreams. And, my mom would be listening to them and she'd say, "Oh, that's an important one. Keep track of that one." Or she would say, "That's one you don't want to talk about too much. Don't mention that to too many people." And she would also encourage us, for that dream. And the reason why is because the religion that my grandfather, my Neshi, was an active participant in, was called the dream drum. It's also known as the big drum. And so dreams were very important in that traditional religion. And he happened to be the speaker of two drums, two big drums, two groups, and the telling of it. Here, I think there's somewhere in here they talk about this. She says dreamers are not being acknowledged in today's world as they were in the past. To be a dreamer was a highly honored position in a tribe or a nation. The place of the dreamer was similar to a prophet or healer by today's standard. And when my mom and I talk about my grandfather these days, she says, there was a lot more there than what we acknowledged with him. Because, like I told you guys before, I didn't even really put him in the category of a holy person, because he was just this loving grandfather. And I remember seeing people coming to him to ask him for assistance, handing him tobacco, talking in Potawatomi. But I also knew he was also a dreamer too, and he would interpret dreams. People would come to him to help them to interpret the dream or the vision that they had. So they would share with him. They would open the vision with him. They would tell it. And when it affected the people, the clan, and if they were big drum members, dream drum members, he was the one who would tell the dream. And I don't want to call it a service, but when they would meet, because they would meet at least 4 times a year, and sometimes in between for funerals and that kind of thing. And so, but he was the speaker, and so he would share about these visions that tribal members or drum members would have, and then they would have a song about that. Sometimes, he actually created songs too for the drums. So that's why my thoughts and feelings about this particular card is kind of slanted. I want you to know that it's kind of slanted because of that. So Steve says in the chat, dream visions from childhood affecting coming to fruition now, helping save the world. Aw, that is great, Steve. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's about change. And so, it's important from my world. It's important to, when you can act on it, is to act on it, is to, whether you're supposed to be at a certain rally or march or fundraiser or donation, whether that's in your time or money. Those are when you see it happening in the physical world, something that you dreamt, no matter if it was when you were 12 or when you were 16 or 8, and it's coming true today, and you can see it happening. In my world, that's when action takes place. Is that you're acting on carrying out that vision, that dream. If it's somebody that you're supposed to talk to or meet, that too. Sometimes it's very, very active and you're actually taking a leadership role. Other times it's more of a supportive role. So I think that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important that you did that, and I appreciate that. She goes on to write that these are the dreams that come from the sleep time, but they're not the waking dreams that come from the dream time. Okay. Now, when I read that, I thought, huh? What did she just say? There's dreams. Now I'm getting warm. Now there's dreams when you're sleeping that can be prophetic. That's how I got my medicine dress. That's how I knew I was supposed to help my aunt when my uncle was transitioning. It was the sleep time dream. And so they can be prophetic. They can be visionary. And Jamie Sams actually wrote a little bit about this too, is that in our modern day, we are so busy that sometimes our allies, our spiritual helpers, our spiritual team can only get that kind of information into us or to us through the dream time, sleep time, because they have our attention, that we're not busy doing other things in our physical life. And so the dreams become, those kind of dreams become much more important during sleep time. And when she's referring to the dream time is what the Maya talked about. That they call this third dimension, the dream time. Because we create this, what we see. Some people call it the hologram, right? That when you consciously, we might call it a trance state, when you're in between awake and asleep. You can hear everything that's going on around you, but your spirit self is off doing something else. Okay. Going to another destination, going to another place, consciously, intentionally going somewhere to look. Some would actually even call it remote viewing, because you're kind of in between. You're not fully in your physical body. That's the dream time. That's the difference between what she's talking about. When some people would actually call it lucid dreaming. Yeah, when those dreams feel like you can't tell the difference. You can't tell if you're awake or dreaming. That's the dream time. Because the world that you're in, that dimension that you're in, looks very much like this. The difference is that there's no time reference. There's no beginning, no end. There's no time. The human measurement of time. I'll give you an example. This is a few years ago. I was still working at the state of Wisconsin, and I had, it was a girlfriend's weekend, and my BFF from grade school, we're still good friends. She went with me up north, and we were visiting one of my other girlfriends up in Shawano. Some people know where Shawano is, Shawano, Wisconsin. Spent the weekend up there, and I came home on Sunday night, and Paul and I, my husband and I, were talking, and he, in his career, because he was in the military, we were waiting on hearing about whether or not he was going to get when and if he was going to be getting his next promotion, his promotion to major. And we were talking about that, and I'd asked him if he had heard anything, and he'd say, no, haven't heard nothing. And so anyway, the next morning, I could have sworn he told me that he had gotten his promotion. And so I leave the house first. I'm going to work first, and I get to work, and I don't know what time it was. It was still morning, and he sends me a text message. Not text. There wasn't texting then. Sorry, it was email, and he said, "Got some good news." And so I wrote back, "I know you got your promotion. When is the effective date?" And the next thing I know, my phone's ringing, and it's him, and he's talking to me about it. And he goes, "How'd you know? How'd you find out?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "That I got my promotion." I said, "You told me. You told me this morning." And he said, "I just found out like 5 minutes ago." He goes, "Sometimes you freak me out." We've been get together at that time probably 30 years. And so we kind of laughed at that. But that's what I mean, is that I got the information, and I saw this world, the dream time. That's the dimension I was in, and that's where the information was told to me. But in my world, it had already happened. It had already happened. In the third dimension, it hadn't happened yet. And so that's what I mean. Do you understand? Can you see the difference? I hope I'm explaining that well enough. The difference between sleep time dreams and dream time visions, dream time experiences. All right. See, I could talk about this for a long time, because I have. We're already half an hour, 35 minutes. Now, she does say that that the dream times, because you're going from one dimension to another, and that they're parallel, right? And in the shamanic sense, they would be saying that this is you're traveling in the middle world, pretty much. Okay. Now, in order to get to those kinds of dreams, there's tools that some people use. There's drumming, there's rattling, there's sometimes singing. Um, it's something that takes your your physical body um, is more relaxed, and your spirit body is able to fly, literally is to fly. And so and there are different traditions all across the world, all indigenous people. There's different ways to do this. There are, and many people talk about this, question it, and that is plant-based hallucinogenic kind of stuff. And in those traditions, now I haven't experienced it. I've only talked to people who have. Um, some experienced it with very little assistance from a holy person, a medicine person, a shaman. Others were invited by the shaman and their family to come and given the opportunity, offered the opportunity to experience it, and they were very much guided through it. That would be my if I had the opportunity, that would be the only way that I would do that, because I think that Grandmother Earth has given us a lot of things, and the opportunity she's giving through the plant-based traveling, I think has value to it. It's part of another culture, another belief system, and is just as valid as breath work. All right, but you have to know who you're going with. Who's your guide? Who's your guide in the physical world, and who's your guide in the spiritual world? And that's important. It's important to know. And Steve is saying, I'd wake up in my dreams and had more control. Even could tell those in the dream it was time for me to get up when morning came. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that is kind of, for me, that is kind of like a measurement, or how do I want to say that? It's a way for me to be able to understand the difference between, oh, I'm in one of those dreams, is when you realize, oh, this is a dream. Okay, that means I can change this or change that. And so, or I can ask questions about this or that, and maybe we can back this up a little bit so I can see that again. Okay, that when you realize that, oh, this is a dream, this is a sleep time dream. All right, there's something here that I'm supposed to see, to know, to experience, and you do have more control in those kind of dreams. You can say, wait a minute, let's back up a little bit. I want to come through the doorway again. I want to see that. I missed that piece. I want to see that again. So you have more control. That's another word. I'm not sure if that's the right word to use, but you have the ability to, to be much more active and in the driver's seat in those kinds of dreams. He's saying, and Steve is saying, easy to face fear when you know when it's a dream. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I've come out of those kind of dreams where I met beings that were going to be popping up into space clearings, and so my team wanted me to know who they were, what they were. That was the first time I'd ever done any kind of physical protection. I mean, literally, like, defense, because they were physically attacking me. It was like, and the next day the next day having bruises on my body from where I got hit. So yes, Steve, it might be easier to face those fears when you know it's a dream. But was I scared in that dream? You bet I was. I'm yelling at my spiritual team, get me out of here, get me out of here now, and so when they stepped in to literally protect me from the physical attack, um, and getting me to a safer, because there was several rows between me and the beings that were attacking me. And once my team was showing me what I should be doing, how to deal with them on an energetic basis. And so once I was able to bring in the light and to shine that light, those beings left, right? And so I'm standing there talking to my team, and at first, and I was not happy. It's like, I don't like being hit. I'm not going to do that again. And I was like, where are they? Because now I know how to deal with them. I'm going to go deal with them. Where are they? And there was this kind of like apartment building with kind of big glass doors. And they said, well, they're in there. And I went to the door and I was going to walk in. I was like, well, let's just get this done. And when one of my team members put their hand on the door, stopping me, it's like, okay, let's slow down just a little bit, and we can do this. There'll be consequences, and I want you to know the consequences before you make the decision. And so he was going through, there's a lot of them, and you have to be able to know how to use your energy in a certain way so it doesn't deplete you, right? And so he's going through these steps. And so my decision was, I need to learn a little bit more, and so let's do this at another time, a different place. I think that was a wise choice, because I wasn't quite ready to take that whole building filled with beings on. I had things to learn yet, and so that's just a side note. All right, Steve's saying, when I make peace with them in the dream, they lost all control. That's true. Wow, that's some really good stuff that you got there, Steve. Because there's so many ways to shine a light, isn't there? And peace is so much better than the physical fight. Let me tell you, it wasn't my choice to do that. It was my choice to defend myself. That's for sure. All right. So in the application of this card, of the Dreamtime card, Jamie Sams writes that you are being asked to see with unlimited vision, to wipe the dust from your eyes and pay attention to the messages you are receiving from the parallel universe. It will give you the insight that you need at this time. Unlimited vision allows any seeker to pierce the veil of unconsciousness and come to an inner knowing. In all cases, this card marks a time of seeing truth on all levels of creation. You are now being given the ability to go beyond the accepted reality. The cocoon is open. Trust yourself, trust your allies, and trust your medicine. You may now take flight. I like that. You may now take flight. So drawing this card this morning, asking what is the energy that's most important for us to know today? And this is the card that we get, right? So it's really important to pay attention to what is being given to us from that parallel universe, the information coming through. However that happens for you and with you, because there's many different ways to get that kind of information. We can't limit it to this is the only way you're going to get that information. But I think it's more important that we pay attention to how this energy unfolds for us today. Where are we going to experience it? Where are we going to notice it flowing through our world? I think it's pretty dang exciting, actually. Of course, that's just me. I find this more than just interesting. It's fascinating, and there's so much more to our lives than the mundane. Not that the mundane's bad, because I kind of like that too. But there's much more to it. And when we open our awareness, when we sense it with as many senses as we possibly can, I call that a rich life. That's what I call that. Yay. Hey, I forgot to read the poem. Dreamtime. Dreamtime teaches other realms that exist within the whole. Body double wanders here, solutions for the soul. Touching other sacred space across the Milky Way, traveling to distant stars, connecting night and day. It's a good one. I like that. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. That's my plan. My plan is I'm working on the June issue of Star Nations magazine. We're at the point of editing the draft of the final. And so we're moving closer and closer to publication, which is the 10th. And so I haven't even seen it yet. It came into the Dropbox late last night, and I haven't had a chance to open it up. And it's like, for me, this is the part that I get all excited about. I can't wait to see it for the first time, because I touch all of the articles multiple times, and by the time everything gets to the elves to lay out the magazine, I've had my hands on those articles many times. And so to see them all dressed up in their dress rehearsal, it's very exciting. I like this part. Just before because now we're at the part where are there tweaks? Are there edits that really need to be made because there was a mistake made, or that kind of stuff, And so that's what I'm doing today. First round of edits. But enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, Monday, for tomorrow's energy card. All right? Bamamina, until we see each other again.